Alex, there's a specific kind of silence that happens in a house right after you take a reciprocating saw to a perfectly good wall. It's that half second where you've committed to the hole, the dust is settling on your eyelashes, and you realize there's no undo button once the daylight starts pouring in.
Is that the silence of artistic contemplation or the silence of Tiger realized he measured from the wrong side of the stud?
It's usually the silence of me wondering if my homeowner's insurance covers unintentional porch access through the living room. But honestly, windows and doors are the most stressful parts of a build because they're the only parts of the house that have to be a fortress against the rain, but also move perfectly on a hinge. It's a mechanical contradiction.
And today we're diving into that contradiction. We're talking window and door installation, from the rough opening to the final bead of caulk. Because as much as you like the open air concept, most people actually want their glass to stay in the wall.
It starts way before you ever pick up a hammer. It starts with the tape measure. People always want to jump straight to the shiny new door, but the secret sauce is the rough opening. If that hole is shaped like a trapezoid and your door is a rectangle, you're going to have a very long, very loud Saturday.
I've heard you say, well, you usually mutter it under your breath, that square is a suggestion in most houses.
Square is a myth, Alex. It's a fairy tale we tell apprentices to keep them hopeful. In reality, you're looking for plumb, level, and square, but you're mostly fighting the house to get there. Before that window even leaves the truck, you need to check your opening. If your sill isn't level, your window's going to weep in all the wrong places, literally.
Wait, so if the opening is wonky, do you fix the house or just shim the window until it looks right?
You have to do a bit of both. You want that rough opening to be about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch larger than the window unit itself. That's your wiggle room. I once tried to fit a custom casement into an opening that was exactly the size of the frame. I spent 4 hours with a power planer, shaving down studs like I was making giant toothpicks, just because I didn't want to admit I'd forgotten about the thickness of the flashing tape.
Let's talk about that tape. Because looking at modern builds, it seems like half the job is just being a professional gift wrapper with that sticky, flashing stuff.
It really is. We're in the era of the weather-resistant barrier, or WRB. Back in the day, they used building paper and a shrug. Now we have tapes that could probably hold a submarine together. The big thing is the sill pan. You want to wrap that bottom ledge so that if water ever gets past the window, and it eventually will, it has a slippery slide right back out to the yard instead of a one-way ticket into your floor joists.
So you're basically building a tiny bathtub at the bottom of the window?
Exactly, a bathtub that drains outside. And the way you overlap that tape matters. You start at the bottom, then the sides, then the top. It's like shingles. You want the water to always be stepping down over the next layer. I saw a guy once, well-meaning fellow, who started at the top and worked down. He basically created a series of funnels that guided every drop of rain directly into his insulation. His wall looked like a wet sponge within 2 seasons.
That sounds like a very expensive science experiment. So, once we've basically waterproofed the hole, we're ready to actually lift the heavy thing, right?
Right, and for the love of your lower back, get a friend. Even a small window gets heavy when you're trying to hold it level while reaching for a nail gun. When you set that unit in, the shim becomes your best friend. You're not just shoving them in there, you're performing surgery. You want those shims behind the hinge points on doors and at the corners of windows. If you just cram them in wherever, you'll bow the frame, and then you'll find out the hard way why the window won't lock 3 months from now.
I've seen those inflatable shims, those little airbags. Are those cheating in the Tiger handbook or are they actually useful?
Oh, those little air pillows are a godsend for a solo installer. They give you that micro adjustment without the frustration of a wooden shim slipping and falling into the wall cavity. But once you get it where you want it, you still need the solid wood or plastic shims to carry the load long term. Air is great for the dating phase of the install, but for the marriage, you need something solid.
What about the don't do this list? What's the biggest mistake you see people making once the window is actually in the hole?
Over fastening, people get aggressive with the nail gun. They think the window's trying to escape. If you nail that flange too tight before checking the operation, you might find you've pulled the frame out of planar. That's a fancy way of saying the window's twisted. It looks square from the front, but one corner is sticking out further than the other. I did that on a sliding door once. Closed it, locked it, felt like a king. Came back the next day, and the door wouldn't slide past the middle because I'd nailed the header so hard it had a belly like me after Thanksgiving.
So check the door twice, nail it once.
Check it 10 times, open it, close it, lock it, unlock it. If it doesn't whisper thunk when it closes, it's not right yet.
Once it's nailed in, we get to the sealant. And I know you have feelings about caulk.
Caulk is not a structural material, Alex. It's a weather seal. The mistake people make is they try to use it to fill a half-inch gap where they messed up their trim. If the gap is big enough to park a bicycle in, you need a different solution. You want a high-quality, flexible sealant that's compatible with your window material, usually 100% silicone or a high-end polymer, ALEV. And what about the weep holes? I read that you shouldn't plug those, or the window literally can't breathe. That is the cardinal sin. Those little slots at the bottom of the window frame are there for a reason. Water gets inside the tracks. It's designed to. The weep holes let it out. If you run a bead of caulk right across those, you've just built an aquarium inside your wall. I once walked onto a job site where a painter had tidied up by caulking every single weep hole on the south side of a house. After the first summer storm, the homeowner heard sloshing inside the bedroom wall.
Oh no, sloshing is never a sound you want to hear from your drywall.
Never. It sounds like heartbreak and a very high repair bill.
Let's pivot to doors specifically for a second. Exterior doors feel like a different beast because people are actually walking over them. They take a beating.
Doors are moving furniture that live in a hurricane. The threshold is the most important part. You need a solid bead of sealant or 3 under that threshold before you ever set the door down. I like to run zigzags of sealant so there's no clear path for water to blow underneath. And when you're shimming a door, you have to be obsessed with the reveal, that gap between the door and the frame. It should be as even as a pinstripe on a fancy suit.
If it's sagging, it's usually the hinges, right?
Usually. Pro tip. Replace at least one of the short screws in each hinge with a long 3-inch screw that goes all the way through the jamb and into the house framing. It anchors the door so it doesn't start to sag over time as the house settles. Without that, you're just relying on a little piece of 3/4 inch pine to hold up 80 pounds of oak and glass. That's a losing bet.
That feels like the kind of tip that separates the I watched a 5-minute video crowd from the I've been doing this for 20 years crowd.
It's a lesson learned from too many "why won't my front door latch" phone calls.
So, if you had to give someone one golden rule before they take a crowbar to their old windows this weekend, what would it be?
Don't take the old one out until the new one is physically on your property and you've confirmed it's the right size. It sounds obvious, but there is no feeling more hollow than having a giant, gaping hole in your house while the delivery driver tells you your new window is back ordered until Tuesday.
A very literal window of opportunity that you definitely don't want.
Exactly. Keep the house closed until the replacement is ready to go to work.
This has been a lot of great info, Tiger. I think the big takeaway is that installation isn't just about the nails. It's about the water management and the patience to get it plumb.
Spot on. You're not just putting glass on a wall, you're finishing the exterior envelope. Do it right, and you'll never think about it again. Do it wrong, and you'll think about it every time it rains.
Thanks for the shop talk, Tiger.
Anytime, Alex. Now let's go see if we can actually get this casement to lock.